This man understands something about where development is actually moving and going. It's like winning in the lottery. So explain to us, Jack, how can people forecast?
Yeah, how far out do they forecast?
They forecast 30 years ago.
30 years.
But they generally, what they produce is a 30-year regional development plan. Go out there, buy land there today when nobody knows that this is happening, and then just sit on it. And when the development comes in, you're right smack on the main road.
Please describe the difference between the person that chooses to do land flipping versus the person who chooses to do land development.
How many people do land deals? There's probably one or two hands go up, right?
All right, I'm going to ask him.
Anybody do land deals here? We got one.
Probably less than 5% of the room.
That's exactly what it was.
Bring that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Harder than that.
Okay.
Come on.
Hey, you guys want to all say hi to Jack Bosch one time? All right, hold on a second, guys.
Thank you, Jack! Listen, man, you're not only a pioneer in the industry, but many people have changed their entire financial destinies because they've been able to work with you, learn from you, and actually make money from strategies that you've been teaching.
My question, Jack, is in the land world, do you have people that are highly strategic and they do land banking where they'll sit on land for 3, 4, 10, 15, 20 years? Is that a good strategy, or is that something you got to scale into and have a lot of cash?
Great question.
No, you absolutely can do that. It's a great strategy. Of course, you don't need much cash, but you need time, obviously, because you got to hold it. But yeah, we have, particularly in that second kind of property that, or in the first two, basically in the infill lots and the ones that are just outside of town, there you find those exact buyers. And we have a group of them that are repeat buyers that every time we have something, like, for example, let's pick Phoenix, like on the west side of Phoenix where a lot of growth is happening, they're just ready to buy them because we get them at 30 cents on the dollar. They get them at 60 cents on the dollar. So number one, they're getting a bargain of market value. So even if nothing's happening, they can still sell it at a profit. But number two, since this is the proven path of growth. So one of the things we show people is actually how to get a hold of the 30-year development plan for their metro area. There's actually a plan like that.
There you said it. You just said it, Jack. And here is the lottery ticket that Jack Bosch is going to talk to us about today, because this man understands something about where development is actually moving and going, and how you can actually think about where they're going to start annexing, where they're going to start changing zoning, where they're going to start making development happen. I have a friend in Phoenix, Arizona, who bought land 40 years ago, and today their family is worth over $100 million because their land became the 10 freeway. It's like winning in the lottery. So explain to us, Jack, how can people forecast?
But that information is all publicly available in every city in the United States. It's not something that in Phoenix you can find out. Detroit has that. Minnesota, Minneapolis, every city has that available to them. And that is particularly if you have a city that consists out of multiple cities. Like you have Phoenix and Glendale thing, and like every city has, and Scottsdale and all this kind of things together. What they do is they put together a government of governments in a way. So a council, let's say, they're people, they get together and then they plan the entire metro area out. They basically say, well, we know that we're getting X amount of people per year moving into this area. So we know we need to improve infrastructure. We need to grow. We need to put in another interstate over there. We need to expand the roads over here. Because when you see the city coming up and start building something, start expanding the road, they didn't wake up to this morning saying like, hey, let's go out there and let's go expand the road. That plan was made 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah, how far out do they forecast?
They forecast 30 years ago.
30 years
ahead of
Is this like government officials?
Yeah, this is like local, county level government.
So there's
officials.
Not infighting there with
I'm
new
sure there's
regimes
infighting,
coming
but
in?
eventually they settle on it. I haven't attended none of these meetings, but what they have, and that's the
No,
that's
I mean
the
they don't
lottery
adjust
ticket
it once it's set for 30 years.
Well, they do some adjustments, but they generally what they produce and they refresh that and renew that every year is a 30-year regional development plan.
Every year.
So that thing basically shows exactly where they're planning to put the next roads, where the next interstate is going to go in, where they're planning to put a city park, what's going to be rezoned to be commercial, and all this kind of stuff. And you can get your hands on that right now, and then literally go out there, buy land there today when nobody knows that this is happening, and then just sit on it. And when the development comes in, you're right smack on the main road. Like I have a friend that did it in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Like, I don't know anyone that lives in Albuquerque, but Albuquerque is growing too. So right outside of Albuquerque, there's an area where he got that plan and he looked at like what's coming up. So what he did is very smartly, he bought the lots that were behind the lots that were on the road. Now, why is that? The lots behind the main road-facing lots are worth nothing.
Right.
But he knew what the city's going to do is they're going to go to eminent domain. They're going to take over all the lots on the city because that street would be widened by a factor of 3x.
Yep.
So it became a massive street. And guess what happened to his lots? They were now directly on the road. So they went up 10x in value in a matter of about 3 years, and he made millions of dollars just with that strategy.
Incredible.
And you can do that for short-term strategies. You can go out where the development is out 10, 20 years out and buy there, and then just sit on it. And then on top of it, there's a few extra strategies. For example, we're doing that on a bunch of land in and outside of Phoenix.
Yeah.
And that's what we're calling land banking, correct, Jack?
Pardon?
That's what we're calling land banking, correct?
That's essentially a very passive land banking. Like big land banking companies, they come in and they do some entitlements and they do some work on it. I just sit on the land and wait for the development to come around and they do nothing with it. That's the easiest way.
So
I'm even saving.
Here's a question. I've got a good question on the screen. If you look at it, Joel Shipley, he always comes up with a great question. And I think this question is more along the lines of, he says land flipping versus land development. Let me tell you what I think he's asking. Please describe the difference between the person that chooses to do land flipping versus the person who chooses to do land development. Where are they at in the phraseology? Where are they just starting out? Should I start out with land development or should I start out with land flipping? Let's jump into that for a couple of minutes because I see people that are brand new. They've never touched a single transaction, and they say, I'm going to start land developing. Let's touch base on that for a minute, Jack, if you don't mind.
Right. So land developing takes a long time, takes a lot of knowledge. You got to work with the cities. You got to spend a lot of time with plans and development departments and all this kind of thing. So land development can be extremely profitable. Like literally, you take a lot that's worth $100,000, and once you fully develop it and rezoned it and done all the things, it can be worth $3 million or something like that. Absolutely game changer kind of money. But it's going to take you 2 years to do this. And in those 2 years, you're going to have to spend probably $100,000 just on different plans and going back and forth and hearings. And you got to want to eat your hat and you're going to want to hit your head against the wall 500 times because you're dealing with a bunch of bureaucrats that overcomplicate everything. Land flipping, the way we define it, which is really land wholesaling, is you pick up, you find an owner. And we've developed a full strategy for that. You find an owner who absolutely doesn't want this piece of land anymore, often inherited it, or just is getting older. We just put a piece of land on a contract worth $25,000 for $4,500. We're creating the listing today for it. It should probably sell within a matter of 2 weeks. We have a buyer that buys it from us for $15,000, and we'll make a $10,000 profit in a matter of beginning to end 4 to 6 weeks. So now you made $10,000, and you do that as many times as you want. In the very first year when we did that, we did 63 deals, made hundreds of thousands of dollars. Within 18 months, we grew that to $1 million.
Can you ring that?
Ring that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Harder than that.
Okay.
Come on.
All right. There you go. But that's the difference.
63 deals?
Yeah.
Year one.
Year one. From at home while having full-time jobs.
Right.
So land flipping, as defined as land wholesaling, is a quick cash strategy that you can do without having much money, without having any real estate experience, because the most beautiful part about land flipping in that sense is there's no house on it.
Right.
So you don't have to figure out, you don't have to know anything about values and repairs and stuff like that. So it's a great entry strategy. And then as you have money and as you come across some really great development land, that's when you add land development.
And what do you like the best? Do you like, out of those three categories that you gave us, the infill, the path of progress? You call it something else. It's not path of progress, but
Path of growth.
Path of growth, and then the recreational land. What's your bread and butter? 5,000
The
deals.
last two.
Okay.
It's like both recreational and path of growth. They kind of flow into each other. Once you far enough out, you're no longer in the path of growth. Now you're in the
Because
recreational.
I've taken your course.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it was putting out, and this is 2018. So putting out the letters, sending them out, and these were recreational.
Letters, cold calling,
Yep.
texting,
Yep.
either emailing.
Any of them.
All of that works. Yeah.
All lead generation, right?
Yeah, all
So
lead
you're just
generation.
reaching out to people that own vacant lots, whatever it is, asking them if they would consider an offer.
Exactly. And
We
because
were having people send us their deeds. We had people send us like signed contracts.
Yeah.
We would just send out contracts. They would send it back, a signed contract. We've never talked to these people before in our lives.
my 16-year-old daughter is going to our program right now, and in the first 4-6 weeks of actually doing it, first she dragged her feet for a while,
Sure.
as 15-year-olds like to do at that time. Now she's gotten 6 deals under contract in a matter of a week.
Yeah.
She's not talked to a single one of these sellers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's those, and all of them are in outside of cities, like in the path of growth or in the more recreational areas.
And we were doing fantastic. We were getting them easy. Selling them was tough for us.
Yeah.
So how can we get better at selling land that is that recreational or the path of growth?
Right. So we can talk about selling a little bit. Selling is actually not hard at all. What most people do wrong is they don't understand that selling land is a completely different process than selling houses.
Sure.
In a house, when you sell a house, you're selling a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a split floor plan, and people want that. They're like, "Oh, I want my bedrooms of my kids to be on the other side of the house. It's
Sure.
split floor plan, great." So you sell the features of the house, right? In land, nobody cares about the features of the land. Most people don't buy because it has 3 trees or 17 trees. They buy because it has utilities. That's one feature they're looking for.
Sure.
But then that they can put up a mobile home or they can build a certain house. But most importantly, it's like, what can I do when I'm on the land? How far is the next lake from here? How far is the next city with a grocery store? How far is the next is there hiking, biking, those kind of things around? Or if it's in the path of growth, it's like, how far am I from the city? So the land really plays a secondary role. What you're selling is the dream of what they can do with the land. So based on that, our listing looks completely different. But then we also don't, you can sell with a realtor, but we often go directly to consumer through social media, to like Facebook Marketplace. Or if you want to go to the MLS, you can go to brokerlessmls.com.
Yep.
So without even having a realtor. Or you also there's websites like landwatch.com.
Yeah, we were putting them on there.
Yeah, where you can put them on there. And then it becomes more of an engagement kind of thing. People contact you. Like one of our students just told us last week, he put up a property and overnight he got 150 inquiries on the piece of land. Well, in that case,
He put it too low.
He put it too low, but that's okay. He's still making profits.
Sure.
But at that point, what you really want to be good at is that communication to the buyer.
Sure.
In order to reel them in.
Yep.
And that's easy to learn. We got like scripts and all kinds of stuff that our people learn.
Yeah. Awesome.
Hey guys.
So you're just putting them on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, like some of these others.
Craigslist, MLS. If it's a area where movement is a little slower, it takes a little more. Then I would go look for what we call the Michael Jordan of realtors in that area.
Yeah.
Because every area has 3 to 5
for land. Yeah.
As Michael, every area has 3 to 5 top realtors who focus just on land. And what most people again do wrong, and even the sellers do that wrong. That's often why they sell to you, because they're like, "Yeah, I'll put it on the website." And I asked my cousin tried to. I put it off with a realtor. My cousin tried to sell it for me, and he couldn't. Well, the cousin is a house realtor. Cousin listed it on the MLS. Cousin put one picture up there, was too lazy to go out there, didn't describe the area, didn't do anything to dream build. As a result, the property didn't sell.
Right.
We sometimes, actually, one of our strategies that we tell people to do is go on freaking Zillow, find listings that have been sitting there for land listings that have been sitting there for 600 days, and then just go offer them 20% of asking price.
Speaking of that, Jack, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's a little tough with the delay here. But I wanted to hit it right when you said it. Lead generation, my brother, and you said you're telling your students to go to Zillow. Would you mind giving us a breakdown on some of the most A, lucrative, or B, hidden areas where people can go look for available land?
The hidden areas, I mean, you basically, the areas we go look for land, first of all, you can do this anywhere in the country, so you can be living where you live and do deals. We have done deals in 17 states in over 100 counties all over the U.S. And probably of those 100 counties, I've not been to 90 of them.
Sure.
Right. So most of the area I've never even been to. So what we usually pick, again, based on the three kind of properties, you want to pick an area that is growing. So can you pick up lots in Detroit? Yes, absolutely. Can you pick up in Detroit was really going down? You could pick up entire neighborhoods for $100. They would raise entire neighborhoods down, and you could pick up those lots for $1.
We just found out that in the recession of 2008, they were selling Detroit Lions Stadium for $500,000.
Yeah, I mean it was crazy. Those things.
NFL team's stadium.
Yeah, that's crazy. At the same time,
so that's how bad Detroit went. Like you could get that. Could you get the land for $- or like how does that?
Well, sometimes you could almost get it for $, like, or you can get it for $0 for $1.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, some of these areas still haven't recovered. So some of those areas would be a long-term hold, but Detroit still has growing areas. There is going to be, and I don't see your audience, but I'm sure in the audience, if there's people that they're nodding their heads, that there's areas in and around Detroit that are growing. Well, that's where you want to go. You want to go into those areas that are growing, that are modestly growing. And then if you don't want to do this in Detroit, you can do it, heck, in Phoenix. Doesn't matter to me. We find there's enough deals for all of us. And go there, because here we get 70,000 people a year moving to the Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
So there's humongous growth. And you pick areas that are just growing modestly, but not crazily growing, and where the values are within like $10,000 and about $500,000, with the sweet spot being between $10,000 and about $100,000, and where there's also some movement. You look at Zillow, you look at places. How many properties have sold in the last year? Well, if nothing sold, chances are there's no demand.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have to look into your deals. If you had a little harder time selling them, perhaps you bought them in areas where there's not a whole lot of demand.
Of course, there's got to be buyers.
Those things exist,
right?
And you look at an area like that that has a decent amount of sales, whatever that means. Like if it's a small county, 50 to 100 sales a year is a good number. If it's a large country, it should have a few hundred sales per year, because that way you can. There's enough buyers out there. And if you do that, you can you apply those principles to anywhere in the country, and you find your areas. Now, in terms of then getting leads, we typically use direct mail, which for land gets you about a 10x return than response rate than for houses. Because again, it's simply a function of competition. Like how many people, if you want to ask in the room there in your meetup, how many people do land deals? There's probably one or two hands go up, right? So, and
all right, I'm going to ask it. Anybody have any land? Anybody do land deals here? We got one. Anybody else? Philando. Anybody else? One in the back. Yeah, we got some hands up here that do some land deals.
All right, but probably less than 5% of the room.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, there we go. So I know my numbers. They're like, yeah,
the competition is a lot less than if you're going after single family, multifamily, or other kinds of properties. And so going after land becomes this little niche area where if you understand what the use cases are, if you understand what the valuations are, if you understand who your buyer could be, if you understand how to contact that landowner, if you understand how to talk to that landowner, if you understand how to contract with that landowner, you could make as much money as Jack Bosch.
There we go. And what you don't have to understand,
And that's a lot.
and what you don't have to understand is how to value repairs or roofs or things like that, because there's none there. By the way, Aaron is asking, can you claim depreciation on land? No, that's probably the number one disadvantage of
Right.
land, that you cannot depreciate land. That's why, by the way, it's not either or. That's why we syndicate multifamily deals. We buy multifamily in order to get the depreciation from there. We
Sure.
make our money with land, and then we put our money in multifamily in order to get the tax write-offs, so we don't pay taxes on it.
There is a strategy on land to save money on taxes, right? So this is something
Yes,
that was brought
property
up to
tax.
me last. No, not property taxes. I'm talking about if I want to. There's a strategy. This happens a lot.
Oh
in
yes,
Texas,
I know.
where
Well, you
buy,
can
let's say-
donate it to a trust, to a
Yeah, so you go buy $100,000 piece of land, let's say hypothetically, and it's got old oil reserves underneath the land. You get the old oil reserves valued at, let's say, $600,000. If you donate that land to a charity, you just got a $600,000 write-off. Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah.
And you can do that, and you can also do that with a normal piece of land, as long as the charity you
do
give it
that?
to has actually, yes, you can, but also as long as the charity has something to do with what you're giving it to. So if you take the charity and you give it to a cancer foundation, you can only write off what you paid for it. But if you give it to Habitat for Humanity and they're building a bunch of houses on it, then you can write off the market value of it. That's my understanding. And I'm not a CPA, so don't quote me on it, but check with your CPA.
Yeah, so just for people to understand this is not a money-making strategy. It is a money-saving
Yeah.
strategy.
The other way you can do it is by giving it to a conservation trust. For conserving land, there's tax benefits, so you can do that too. But you want to talk to your CPA about that, because it's a little bit of a high-risk strategy. The IRS doesn't like it. So if you want to do it, you want to do it really carefully with under good supervision of a CPA.
We're gonna show you guys, the audience, one more time. We want everybody here in Detroit to tell Jack how much they love them. Hey, you guys want to all say hi to Jack Bosch one time? All right, hold on a second, guys. Thank you, Jack.
That is awesome. I love this.
Everybody here is German, by the way. Nobody here is American. They all came out from Germany to support you in your show.
That is
family reunion
fantastic.
for you.
You can do this from Germany in the U.S., so all my Germans are welcome.
I love it. Did everybody have a lot of fun today?
A lot. Lots and lots. Lots and lots and lots of dirty fun.
All the lots. All the lots. That's exactly what we were talking about. Lots and lots and lots. Jack, I just wanted to say one thing to you, brother. Listen, man, you're not only a pioneer in the industry, but many, many people have changed their entire financial destinies because they've been able to work with you, learn from you, and actually make money from strategies that you've been teaching. So before tonight ends, would you do us all a favor and let everybody know how they can work with you, how they can find you, what your social media is, and what's the best way to know Jack Bosch?
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Likewise to you guys. You guys are changing lots and lots of lives. So the way you can get a hold of me is very simple. In social media, it's pretty much Jack Bosch. Now, Bosch is spelled like the power tools or the washers and dryers, like B-O-S-C-H. But there's a C in the middle, right? So B-O-S-C-H. You go on Instagram, you go on Facebook, you go on TikTok. I'm all over the place. I also have a podcast, and the podcast is very simply the Jack Bosch Show.
Jack, Vince just said there's a new title for your podcast. It's called Get Dirty.
I like that. I like Get Dirty. And then we actually, if anyone is interested, you can we actually having a live event coming up, but it's in Tampa, Florida on September 29th to October 1st. You can go to landflippinglive.com if you want to come out there. There's still a few tickets available, landflippinglive.com. And other than that, I mean, just follow me on social media, subscribe to my podcast, and there's lots of abilities with the bio and things to connect with us.
Thank you, guys. Jamil, Pace, thank you for joining us from Detroit. Thank you for everybody in Detroit for paying attention and really learning from Jack tonight. And that's it. We're out of here. We love you guys. We'll see you next week. See ya.